to the country.
What have I done to the country?
Yeah. What have you done?
What have you done to the country?
All these bombings.
Oh, so I've done the bombing?
Yeah, you have.
So I've done the bombing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
People like you.
I was just going home. Most of the time I'll catch the bus because it literally drops me right outside my house and it's practically right by my workplace, so it's just convenient. I was sitting on the window side and a lady came sat next to me. Not a problem. I mean, I had my mask on. She at the time had her mask on. I began to notice that everyone else was quiet, which I thought was a little bit peculiar. But again, listen to music. And then in between the gaps of my sort of music changing, I could hear her say stuff like, this country has changed, and stuff about Boris Johnson not doing enough. And then me being me, I was like, okay, I want to eavesdrop onto this conversation. So I turned my music off. She was saying stuff like, I feel like a second-class citizen. And she was shaking her head a lot. And that's when I began to feel, okay, I have a feeling I know where this is going, because I know a Karen when I see a Karen. But I wasn't going to call her out as a Karen because she hadn't actually said anything that I could hear. So I took my headphones out and I did it quite blatantly because I wanted her to be aware that if she's going to say something, now I'm listening.
50 years ago, there was nobody at no Asians.
So?
Now, it's everywhere.
So?
My first reaction was press record because I know how important that is right now, because you are not going to be believed unless you see it, unfortunately. When I did eventually post this video, the DMs I've got, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of DMs of Black people, of brown people, of, you know, people from different ethnic minorities telling me stories that are more vile, more racist than what I experienced. And nobody knows.
Excuse me. Don't talk to her like that. For sitting here, we call her racist.
My mum and dad.
She called me a terrorist.
Nobody said a word. In fact, people got off the bus to avoid the awkwardness. The only person who did say something, and this was after the racist lady has left, was a young Black lady. And she started talking about her experiences of being Caribbean and her background with Windrush.
My grandparents were pulled over and then sent back with Windrush. They helped build this country.
The bus driver stops the bus. He turns off the engine. He turns off the lights. He gets out of his booth and he walks towards me. He says, I don't remember exactly word for word, but it was along the lines of, I need you to get off the bus. And I thought he was talking to the guy behind me, but then I noticed his eyes were, are you talking to me? He was like, yeah. I was like, you want me to get off the bus after I was a victim of racist abuse? He's like, then he said something along the lines of, you're the one who's shouting. If you don't like it, get off the bus and call the police. Something along those lines. I don't remember word for word, but that was the gist of what he said.
You were agreeing with her. Do you think silence is the same as racism? I heard you. I heard her talking and you're like, yeah, this country is going to shit. We've made this country.
Throughout the rest of that journey, I felt like the agitator, that I was the aggressor, that these poor white people were the ones who had to deal with me. Where am I? Like, what decade am I in? What have I done? I just wanted to go home. And not only was I attacked by someone who was sitting next to me, not only was I attacked by someone behind me, I was also attacked by the person who had nothing to do with the conversation.
You look down on us.
Sit down. I look down at you. How? How do I look down on you? Get off the bus. She's still there calling me a terrorist and you're telling me how to talk to her.
I've had racial abuse before, as I'm sure almost every person of color has, but that was the first time where I actually felt like a second-class citizen, where nobody wanted to help me other than that Black lady beside me. No one wanted to intervene, and I felt like I didn't belong there. People right now have been emboldened to say whatever they feel, and they masquerade it as free speech. But they don't realize that free speech doesn't encompass hate speech. You do not have the right to victimize me and make assumptions of me based on the color of my skin. The only difference between now and maybe 5 or 10 years ago is that we have cameras now. So if you're going to say something, say it with your chest, because we will take our cameras out and we will hold you to account.
Well, I've got it on my camera. She mentioned bombing, I can tell you that much. Yeah, she did.
I'm not someone who likes to cancel people. I'm not really involved in this whole cancel culture, getting people fired, ruining their lives. I think there are instances where it's important to do that, to hold someone to account when it's something they've done repeatedly. I'd rather change her mind than just punish her, because sometimes punishment only makes it worse. Because firstly, she becomes a victim. In her own mind, she becomes a victim. Oh, these people of color are attacking me again. That's not to say now let's forgive them, because they need to be held accountable to what they've said. But I think it's much better to give them stuff like community service, or make them have to visit communities or be involved in communities that they're trying to attack, so they can see that, we're just like them. Our aim is to wake up, to eat, to get a job, to have a family, to be part of this country, because we pay our taxes. We are the doctors, we are your nurses, we are your opticians, we are your teachers, we are your lawyers, and we're not going anywhere. If this is her first incident of this being, at least being caught on camera, then I'd like to have a conversation with her, to be honest. I'd like to know why she feels that way. Even though it's not our responsibility to change people's racism, if we want that to change, we will have to have some dialogue, because racists aren't going to change their own minds. We can say educate yourselves as much as you want. Nobody's going to educate themselves. Nobody's gonna be like, okay, somebody told me to educate myself, let me not become a racist now.
Yeah.
In my eyes, that doesn't work. So I do think, whilst we are the victims, I think if we want change, we have to be open to dialogue too.